Hello, good afternoon. So I'm Rafa. I'm an engineer here at Google, like that. So this is what I'm going to cover today. It's going to be like a quick overview on how to automate AdWords, different ways that we can do it, and then we'll take a look at the newest stuff on the AdWords API, which is the main tool that we can use. Yeah, the main tool that we can use to automate all this complexity that we have in our accounts. So first thing, this is pretty obvious, but just to reinforce the point. So AdWords accounts can be a pretty complex beast. And if you just compare it to the number of moving parts on an A320, you will see how we really want to automate all the boring and all the things that we humans can make errors. Okay. So we want to have something like an autopilot for AdWords. So we're going to see mainly three tools that are available for you. So the first one is automatic rules. This is pretty simple. This takes, I don't know, a couple of hours to set up. Gives you certain flexibility, but it's nothing that you cannot do nothing really complex here. It's also you have to use the AdWords UI. It's linked to each of the accounts that you have. So yeah, the only thing that this is pretty fast to deploy. And then we have AdWords scripts. So this is a bit more complex. You need here some development experience, not a lot. The coding is done in something similar to JavaScript. So here we would be talking about weeks of development, maybe. And we can do here. We are more flexible. We can automate some of the stuff that we can do with the AdWords UI, and we can do things like, I don't know, we can build out a whole campaign out of a spreadsheet and just feed it into the system, and it will create the campaign that we want. There's also reporting capabilities here. So you can automatically schedule a report to be built like every day, and you will get the data. There's also a couple of things that you can, well, this is something that you cannot do using the UI. You might have heard of this. So this is for building dynamic ads in which you can actually insert two numerical values into the ads. You do it programmatically, so you specify so you have like a template ad that you can see here to the left. And then these have like placeholders that you can fill numbers with. So basically depending on the keyword or depending on the day, so you can change these numbers throughout the day as much as you want. And the good thing about this is that it keeps all the history of the ad. It doesn't interfere with quality score. You don't have to, so these ads don't get reapproved or anything. So this is a good way to keep your ad inventory updated. You can also do this with the AdWords API. And that's what we're going to talk about next. This is the most powerful thing that you can do for using AdWords. There's third-party bidding tools available, and they all use this API. So this is the most flexible thing that we have. So technically, this can be deployed in any language, but we have specific libraries to help you in these specific programming languages here. So basically, we have a version of the API for basically all the major languages. Using AdWords API is the most flexible thing, but it's going to take like much more involvement from the development side. So here we're probably talking about months of development, maybe with a team of developers. So that depends on the size of what you're planning to build. And this is what it's basically used for. So here you have all the flexibility. You can get your own data. use that to reach to your own conclusions, use that to be used as decision points. You can automate everything. And you can also, you can benefit from some of the automated tools here that we are going to talk about for keeping your ad inventory up to date. So one way was the ad params, and the other way is actually linking your ads to your inventory that you have in your own systems. So using the AdWords API, you can link both your own systems and AdWords, and then make decisions here. We're going to look at a number of use cases that you can use AdWords. So this would be one of the most common things. So this is basically depending on the inventory that you have on your systems. You can basically pause ads or create new ads so that all your ad inventory is up to date. So that someone searches for something that you are advertising and you are out of stock. So that's bad. So with this, you can avoid it. Another use case is if you want to grow your keyword base, you can use a number of services that we have in the API. They give you, basically they give you the search volume. So first they give you new keyword ideas related to your campaign and your ad groups, and then it gives you the approximate search volume that this is going to have, the approximate cost that is going to have if you add these new keywords to your account. You can also use some reports such as the search query performance report. So this gives you all the queries that your user have been typing before clicking on your ad. So that way you can get new ideas for keywords, maybe some search terms that you are not covering. And then you can also get stats and estimates for keywords. Another use case, you can also run campaign experiments, the same thing that you can do using the UI. You can also do it here, but without any manual burden. So basically allows you to do the same. It's the same thing with the AdWords API. It basically allows you to do everything that you can do manually using the UI, but automated and at scale. That's the main benefit. Automated bid management as well. So as I was saying, like all the third-party systems are built using the API, and they get the signals from AdWords, and then they have their own algorithms and their own systems to update the bids. But you can also do it the same because you can get basically the performance data of all of your campaigns, of all your keywords, and you can act in React to that. And you can, this is basically a summary of everything that we've been talking about. So you can get basically all the performance data, all the data in your accounts. There's a set of reports that are already built that give you, that are segmented by, I don't know, device, location. There's a number of different reports here, and you can also build your own. So it's pretty flexible as well. And now we're going to focus on, because the AdWords API is something that is constantly being updated as new stuff is coming up on the UI. There's usually like a brief time difference between these features making it to the UI and then making it to the AdWords API. Sometimes it's at the same time, but sometimes it takes like some weeks or some time for those features to make it to the API. So we just released the new version actually this month. I just wanted to run through some of the new things that in this version and also in the last version, which was 6 months ago. So new things that are coming around are feeds. This is a concept that is going to is pretty flexible. Is the way that AdWords now is starting to have, so that you can put data into the system, which is much flexible. For example, for the new ad extensions, such as the site links, so to populate these site links, you feed the system with these feeds. At the end of the day, these are just files, but it's much easier to upload data much faster. And then in this version, we have ad group level feeds, which basically means that you can have different site links for each of your ad groups. So that's something that the API is allowing you to do. And this is also the mechanism that is used for the offline conversions import that we'll talk a bit later. We now have dynamic search ads support in the API. So what you could do using the UI, you can now do it automatically using the API. So creating the dynamic search ads, bidding, targeting, everything you can do with the API automatically. For remarketing lists for search ads, it's exactly the same thing. So now you can do it everything using the API. And for conversions, we have what I would say is a pretty big change or a pretty big upgrade, which is the offline conversions import. And we also have something not well. I mean, you can now link to this. You can now specify the number, the conversion window that you have for your conversions. So now it can be specified to be from 7 to 90 days. And about the offline conversions import, this is something that I wanted to explain a bit further. This is a way that people now have to upload their conversions after they have happened, and they can put it back into Adwords so that Adwords can get the data, and then if you use any flexible bidding strategy or something like that, then it will have more signals and it will make your campaigns better. So essentially, what we have done here is we have updated our system. So now we are sending in each of the ad clicks that people click, we're sending an ID, a unique ID for each of the ad clicks that you can now store in your system. So if you want to make use of this, you will probably need to update the systems that you have, but it's going to be beneficial in the end. So you would store this click ID, and then if this customer has converted, then you can later upload these values with the conversion value that you think this conversion has, and you can put it back into AdWords. So that way, if you choose to do that, then you will have all the conversion data in AdWords. And this is something that before you couldn't do. What's also new? We have the flexible bidding strategies. So this basically means that now you can have, so before you could only have a bidding strategy for each campaign, and now you can have different keywords. You can have sets of keywords or ad groups that belong to different campaigns, and you can assign these ad groups. You can assign them a bidding strategy. So basically, you can now have you have your most performing keywords in different campaigns. You can now give it a single bidding strategy, and you don't need to split your campaigns anymore. And the latest thing is the new bid adjustment. So other than, I mean, we used to have time and device bid adjustments, and now we can also, using the API, we can also do location and display. So that means audiences, placements, etc. As well, there's been some reporting updates. So we have a set of reports available in AdWords. We have added like gender, the main two are the gender and the age range performance reports. So these are available now for the display network. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of changes in each of the releases of the API. This is just a few of the highlights. So this is basically it. I don't know if you have any questions on any of the stuff that we've covered.
Yeah. Brilliant. Welcome back from your break. The next section we're going to talk about for about the next half hour or so is about cross-device conversions. Now, my name is Shimoda, and I'm the search solution specialist here in the UK, supporting the UK account management team and sales teams here. Now, cross-device tracking. Let's start with the context, right? So today we live in a new digital world where people move from one device to another and even use, other types of connected devices, such as new wearable technology. I mean, some of you might have night fuel bands, etc. But a lot of these new technologies are being further connected to the internet. And people connect with these devices from anywhere, anytime they want. If you think back 10 years ago, you probably only connected, well, for me it was true, I only connected at school or at university or home, right? At the moment, with mobile devices, tablets, basically connect from whenever you want, whenever you are. Now, more engagement points like this from a consumer perspective is really, really important for businesses. Why? Because it gives you the chance to actually connect with these people more frequently and at each important touch point. So we call these the moments that matter, right? So regardless of what device they're searching on or connecting from, each of these touch points which are relevant to your business is a moment that matters. And you really want to engage with your clients or your audience to A, drive consideration, B, drive intent, and potentially even drive conversions. Now, a lot of you, obviously, most of you are in the B2B sector. And if you think about how B2B buyers go through the process of, research, etc., and actually converting, it's very likely that people will actually have much longer research process. And as a result, this becomes really complicated because their touch points are so much more complicated than, let's say, buying shoes. Say, if I need shoes, I'll just go on my mobile phone and potentially order something from Amazon, eBay, etc. For a B2B buyer, it's a lot more considered. People will spend the time researching on various devices, which makes it very, very challenging. But we know this behavior is happening, right? Research shows that about 90% of us who have multiple devices actually have this cross-device behavior. Some of us who only have a computer at home, like my mum, would probably not fit into that category, but most of us in this room do fit in that category. And actually 98% move between different devices within the same day to actually make a decision on what to do next in terms of taking action. But the problem with this is we've probably been talking to you about mobile for possibly the last couple of months and how much you need to invest in it, etc. But the challenge is survey data is survey data. It's industry specific, and when you say B2B, it's massive because you have so many different industries and each client, each business is so different. And so the challenge comes in understanding this attribution challenge, right? The cross-device world. Now, the attribution challenge is as follows. You have a specific moment that matters. So this lady is actually searching for something on potentially a mobile device. They then move on to the tablet device or desktop device and move back to mobile and then potentially take action that you want them to take in the first place, which is a potentially call, potentially a lead submitted online from the desktop, perhaps a phone call, or perhaps if you have branches, etc., people to walk into that branch and talk to a salesperson to actually convert that lead. But this process is already complicated for example, the retail travel sector, but it's probably even more complicated for the B2B sector, as I mentioned, because of that long time frame. And what we're trying to do here with the new technology that's going to be available, which is cross-device conversion tracking, is to help you get better insights into how people move between the devices, etc. And this is where we introduce estimated cross-device conversions, which some of you might not have seen in your accounts yet. It's actually going to be rolling out in the next couple of weeks. But we are finally able to track people's conversions, actions that are taken from an online perspective, from one device to another. So how does this actually work? Well, it works by when consumers or your audience are signed into both their multiple devices, such as their desktops, their mobile devices, etc. And when someone actually searches, let's say, on the mobile device and clicks on one of your ads, let's say, virtualization or office space, etc. And if they then go to their desktop campaign and they're also signed in, we can actually link that data, that conversion data in the back end. And we can see that this person or this user has clicked on an ad on a mobile device and then moved on to the desktop browser and actually made the action that you wanted them to take. Now, what happens then is that we combine this estimate with the actual last click tracked conversions that you currently see in your accounts if you have conversion tracking set up to come out with a more comprehensive measurement of what's truly happening in terms of this cross-device behavior. So just raising your hands, how many of you, at this moment in time, have no idea how to attribute back to mobile, but understand that this cross-device behavior is happening? Raise of hands. Yeah, the majority of you. Do you guys not believe in cross-device then? This section of the room? No, blank faces. I'll take that as a yes, but I don't want to raise my hand. Okay, fantastic. The results have been amazing, right? So we use survey data. We know that based on surveys, 90% of people use this. But if we take a look at different verticals here, like entertainment, travel, technology, retail, and local, for all these cross-device behaviors, we have initial benchmarks based on the beta clients that were on this new product launch. And on average, we see a significant uplift in conversions that previously we couldn't see, that we can now attribute back to different devices due to this multi-device behavior. Now, how does estimated cross-device conversions happen? So let me give you an example. So a customer starts shopping for a gift, etc., over her lunch break on a mobile device. She then clicks on a mobile ad and finds the perfect gift. She then goes directly to the site on her laptop through an organic link or just types in the URL and converts. Now that conversion will actually be applied back to that mobile ad click in the Adwords interface as an estimated conversions to give you a bit more insight into how that mobile ad click benefited your whole conversion process. Now, if we take a look at what it looks like in the reports, hopefully a lot of you are comfortable maneuvering through the complicated Adwords interface. If you already have conversion tracking, you will automatically get the estimated total conversions column in your account, right? So you don't have to do anything about tagging if you're already tagged up. Google will automatically do all the linking in the back end to give you these new metrics. You'll also see another column called estimated cross-device conversions. Now, just to give you some background information, why do we have two columns? Well, estimated cross-device conversions is just a part of where we're trying to go with AdWords in terms of understanding the whole value of your search campaigns, right? So if you take a look at estimated total conversions, call center calls, how do we import that back into it? How do we import offline conversions back into it? If you have stores or branches, how can we incorporate some of the sales that have been happening in those areas back into the system for you to get a comprehensive view of what your campaigns are actually delivering? And the first step of this is cross-device conversion tracking, where we can actually give you this type of behavioral insight. So what do these numbers actually mean? So if someone clicks on an ad on their mobile and then clicks on an organic link on desktop, that conversion will be seen under that column. Sorry, you can't really see that, but that is the estimated cross-device column that you'll now have in AdWords. Now, if someone actually clicks on a mobile ad, but then clicks on an ad on desktop again and converts, that conversion will just be added as a last click conversion to your desktop campaign in the traditional place that you see your conversions. So you should all be used to that. If someone clicks on a mobile organic link and then goes to desktop and converts, then that conversion will be attributed to the desktop column, exactly the same place as the previous one. First click on an ad on desktop and then converts on mobile organic, that again will be attributed to the desktop conversions, and so forth and so forth. So these are all the examples. We can share this with you afterwards if you want, but it's just for you to understand what these numbers actually mean in terms of user behavior. So once you understand what cross-device conversions can actually do for you and the extra insights, you need to take action, right? Basically what we're doing is we're not creating conversions out of thin air. We're giving you more insight as the first step into how your ads are performing and how they're driving extra value across devices. Once you have that information, you can then understand what levers to pull in terms of which campaigns are doing well from a cross-device perspective, and then make business decisions accordingly. So in terms of measurement today, if we take a look at this example, what we're doing is potentially assigning for value to things that we can currently track potentially 90, 80%, right? So let's say that you have 10,000 online orders or leads at £30 a lead, that's a 300K value. Let's say that your call center gets about 5,000 calls using click to call, etc. And you know that the average value for those are £25, you then get 125,000 pound value. And then let's say that you also promote apps, and you know that the average lifetime value of anyone who downloads that app is 7K. Is £10. The total value of that is 495,000. And then you'd actually, compare that to your AdWords spend, get your ROI, etc., and justify that to the business. Now, the good thing is what we're trying to achieve is the full value of AdWords, as I just mentioned. And the first step here is the cross-device conversion orders. This is something we didn't have insight into before. And now what you can do is then identify, right, how many cross-device conversions happened that I couldn't attribute back to my search campaigns. And in this case, let's say 3,000, valued at £30. You add an extra 90K in value. And what happens then is that you can then assume that there's a 23% increase in the number of conversions or in the value that you're driving. Now, what do you do with that? Well, you then need to understand how you make decisions based on it in terms of bidding, etc. Perhaps the ROI was much lower than you expected because you used to use assumptions. If that's the case, then you need to lower it. If the new data, which is very, very accurate, is actually giving you more insight and it's driving a lot more than you thought, then obviously you want to make decisions based on that. And so what we want to do is give you a simple formula. This isn't the final formula. A lot of you will have your own ways of calculating what you need to do in terms of making the most of this data. But in the most basic sense, this is how you would come up with the computer bid. So what you would do is look at the current computer bid that you're using in terms of the base bid, and then you enter the estimated value uplift. So it was 23% in this case. You add that to the current computer bid, and you get the new computer bid. So instead of me just saying bids all the time, here's an example. Let's say that you were currently bidding at £2. There's a 23% uplift in terms of value. You just add that to the base bid and you get a new bid of £2.46. That incorporates all the value that you've identified through cross-device conversion tracking. Are there any questions on this so far? Am I going too quickly? Make sense? Yes? Fantastic. Yes. Very good question. It is only available. So the question for those on the live stream, the question was, is this only available in AdWords or is it available also in Google Analytics? These are two completely separate products. So it's only conversion tracking based. So if you have campaigns where you import Google Analytics goals, that will not pick up the cross-device behavior because it's just two different things. Universal Analytics would be the solution in terms of tracking cross-device behavior, although the way they measure that behavior is slightly different. Yes? So I'll go into that in a second, but I'll answer that now since you asked. The question was, is this data available at keyword level or just ad group level? The answer is this data is available at campaign and ad group level only. You won't be able to see this at keyword level at this point in time. Right, so once you determine the right computer based on your ROI goals, the next step is obviously to update your mobile bid adjustment. Now, you might not have to do anything with your mobile bid adjustment because if the cross-device uplift for desktop is the same percentage as your mobile, then you're done. You just have to make that decision on desktop and ignore the mobile one. However, if the cross-device behavior is much higher on mobile, for example, in travel, we see this as well, like the cross-device behavior is 33% from mobile to another browser, whereas it's only about, I think, 7 or 8% from desktop to any other device. You then might change what your bid modifier is for mobile because it's much more effective in driving cross-device conversions. So your mobile bid adjustment calculation looks like this. So once you understand the estimated value per computer click, You just divide the estimated value per mobile click by that, subtract 1, and you'll get a mobile bid adjustment, right? So for example, if the value of a mobile click for you now, looking at the cross-device conversion tracking, is £1.09, then the value and the value per computer click is £1.21, then what you would do is just divide the two, subtract 1, and you'd come up with a minus 10% bid modifier, right? Does that make sense? Very simplistic. You might have your own methodology, but that's just one recommendation of how you might want to look at this. Now, what we recommend is going beyond that, right? So we've talked about cross-device conversion tracking. It is such an important thing to look at because we know this behavior is happening. You have to take it into consideration when optimizing your accounts. But one thing that we need to bear in mind is, although we're focused so much on mobile, we can't forget a lot of other signals, right? So we talked about people connecting anywhere, anytime. Anywhere is definitely something really important. Do not forget to optimize your campaigns based on geo data, because you have all these signals that people are giving you because they're using their phones from everywhere, etc. So you use the dimensions report to get a full understanding of where your conversions are highest in certain areas and optimize accordingly as well. You also want to look at the time of day and business hours, right? Just because you're a B2B business doesn't mean that people aren't researching and entering leads out of office hours. How many of you work beyond 5:30? No one? That's quite good. I need to join one of your companies. Right, so time of day and business hours, another important factor to look into, and obviously day of week. So in terms of optimization tips, you're going to get quite a few new columns with cross-device conversion tracking and estimated total conversion tracking. Now, at this point in time, you have all these types of calculations already for your traditional last click conversions, right? You have value per conversions, you have conversion rates, etc. You will get these metrics for the estimated version as well. And the key message here is basically to continue to monitor these numbers because they might fluctuate with, every Christmas, people get more smartphones. We're about to hit about 73%, I believe, by the end of the year in terms of smartphone penetration. Every Christmas, people get new phones, new devices. This behavior is going to continue. So once you do get this data, don't just look at it once, make your decision, and just leave it for a couple of months. Continuously look at it, at least on a monthly basis, to see whether you can see trends in terms of percentages of cross-device happening more on one device or another, right? Think about 2 years' time when everyone here will have Google Glass, maybe. Maybe that will be the new cross-device aspect. So keep up to date with these metrics and make your decisions accordingly. But the most important thing is to take action using these new insights. No one else can provide this data for you, this cross-device behavior. We've been tackling it for a while. We're finally getting there as a first step. Are there any questions? Yes. Yeah, go for it.
You said that travel is much higher for mobile to desktop than the other way.
Yes.
Give me more examples of other instances.
Yes, we do. I can't share the whole, basically all the results from the beta. We have them by industry. I can't share it all with you, but your account managers can share the B2B specific ones. But what's most important is, again, B2B is such a broad topic that the numbers might be skewed to one side or the other, right? Based on who was in the beta, etc. So the key recommendation here is, if you don't have conversion tracking, now is probably a good time to have it if you want this insight before your competitors do, or with your competitors. And B, if you do have conversion tracking, look at your own data. And this is what's so amazing, is that before we had to go on assumptions, and now you have your client-specific data, right? So if you take a look at, I'm not going to use a B2B example, but if I don't know, low-cost holidays versus Expedia, they might have complete different data, which means they can use their own data to make those decisions, and that's the most important thing.
So kind of related to that, it's very much a last click, last device.
Yes.
Is there any plans to look at not last click attribution?
So yes, to a certain extent. This is probably one of the first iterations of the product when it launches. We just want to give more insight to people as quickly as possible. Attribution, obviously, in terms of generics to brand, etc., is really important. And even understanding the behavior of what if someone clicks on a mobile ad and desktop ad? Can we give us any insight on that? At the moment, we can't. but hopefully in 2014 or in the next couple of months, we'll update the product to be able to offer you more insight, using search funnels, etc., to be able to see the cross-device funnel, so to speak. That would be the ideal scenario. Yeah. Yes.
How will you determine that it's the same user on two different devices? Is it if they are only signed into a Google account?
Yes. So the question is, how do we know if a user, what do we consider a signed-in user? A signed-in user is anyone signed in to any of the Google properties on both devices. So if you're signed into YouTube, if you're signed into Chrome, if you're signed into Gmail, Google Search, all those signed-in, logged-in users are being matched across devices. Now, the only downside of this, I guess, and obviously we can't bypass this because of privacy issues, is that if they're not logged in to another device, but just logged into one, we can't make that connection in the backend, right? And obviously all of this connection is anonymous, so.
And in your example, you gave the example of a lady on the lunch break shopping on her mobile phone, but then going directly to the website, so not doing another search. How do you then, if they're not doing another search, how do you know it's the same user if they've gone directly to the website?
Yep, so if they type in the search engine, the link or the brand name and click on an organic link, or if they type in the URL directly in the URL, then hopefully they'll be signed into Chrome, which means that we can actually make the link. But if they're not signed in, then that's an issue. And usually, even if you don't open a search engine, if you're already signed in, it should, I believe, still technically be logged in. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Any other questions? Yes. So unfortunately, we don't have that information to share in terms of percentage. What we can say is double digit, but other than that, we can't divulge that information, unfortunately. And I don't even have that information. So apologies for that. Any other questions? Is this something that you think you're going to use? It's insight you've never ever had before. Yes. So I believe that's the same question in terms of percentage of signed in users. We don't have that information to share externally.
Add on to that. So if the opposite of remarketing is search ad, we can find we don't get very much traffic on remarketing with search ad. That's because we really signed in users. So you can maybe figure out your ranks of what percentage based on that.
Good work, Aaron. Yes, question in the back. So that's a very good question. So this is just for search at the beginning. Display is not, it's not compatible with display. It's not compatible with YouTube conversions either. So yeah. I believe so. I mean, we wouldn't just leave the product as it is, in my opinion. We definitely work on 2-3 iterations, as I mentioned. We want to integrate with search funnels. We would want to integrate with all the other products, because obviously I talked about touch points, and actually touch points are not just search touch points. There are touch points on content websites, on blogs, etc., that you want to monitor across across devices, but across different content as well. So that's definitely something that's probably looked at by the product teams. Any other questions? Yes.
Is there any third-party integration with this?
So very good question. The question was, is there any integration with third parties? All the third-party tools have been briefed, and this will be available in the API on November 1st is the ETA. Again, that might shift depending on when the product gets launched, but if you do use third parties and if you do use the API, this data will be available to the Merins and Kenchus and DoubleClicks of this world, and they could then use these new signals to optimize their algorithms to optimize again against cross-device behavior. So it's definitely a powerful new metric. Yes, another question.
You mentioned different modifiers you can make up. Do you have any practice on what to do when they overlap with each other? Like if North England have different in-dates, like versus the South England.
So do you mean, sorry, I don't think I understand the question. Yeah, so you're talking about the matrix bidding to a certain extent. Yeah, at this point we can't do matrix bidding unless you split the campaigns. If you really want to have a different time bid modifier for Southampton versus London, for example, you'd have to create a London and Southampton campaign separate and then apply the different time modifiers to that. If you just have them in one, you can't put a geo modifier just for, you can put a geo modifier, but you can't then apply the time modifier just for that geo that you want. So it's not perfect, but it becomes quite complicated if you think about the matrix of possibilities. Any other questions? No? I guess it's the end of that session then. Thank you very much. Welcome back. Are we ready to start the next session? Yay, good. Right, so hopefully the cross-device topic was interesting for you guys and you'll take action when it does launch in your accounts. But now for the next section, for the next 50 minutes or so, we're going to talk about automation for search and why automation is such an important thing and take you through kind of like the two options that you have in terms of automating your search campaigns further. Right, so before I get into this, this is an image that you've probably seen before, but in today's digital world, people are connecting in all sorts of ways, basically, but leaving breadcrumbs of data, right? With more connected devices, there's just so much more data. And understanding this data is very difficult, and taking action on this data is extremely difficult. Let me give you an example of what this complexity may look like for some of your search campaigns, right? So let's say that you have keyword A, B, C, D, right? And you also have 4 signals that are now available through people connecting via mobile devices. So, for example, using audience lists, you know if people have been to your website or not to your website, and you can make decisions based on that. You also can make decisions based on whether they're on a mobile or non-mobile device. You get signals on when people are searching for your campaigns and what time of day. You also get the signal of where they're from. Are they in London? Are they in Manchester, Birmingham? And if you combine all of these different signals that you have access to and multiply that by, let's say, 5,000 keywords that you have in your account, and multiply that by potentially the number of queries per day that this happens, that's potentially 800 million decisions that you need to make, right, in terms of optimization. But in reality, what do? You probably optimize your bids once a day, twice a day, once a week, once, and see what happens for a week, and not real time. But you could actually do this 800 million times, right? That's the power of all these connected devices, the power of real-time information. Now, if we take a look at some of the DoubleClick stats, the average account has about 90,000 plus keywords, right? So imagine the 5,000 equals 800 million. What does 90,000? I don't know. I'm not very good at maths, but if anyone's good at it, you can calculate that. But you can imagine just the number of potential decisions that you can potentially make. Add text to that, URLs to that, match types to that, and it just becomes an enormous data set that you have to navigate to make better decisions in terms of bidding, right? So how do you actually use this complexity and turn it into opportunity, or how do you simplify this complexity? Well, automation, right? By automating your processes that you do on a day-to-day basis, in this case, bid management, you can actually do a lot more in terms of innovation. So if you look at this axis and you have, on the y-axis, you have impact on business, and on the x-axis, you have the time spent or the number of decisions that are currently made, you kind of get this curve, right? Where potentially the least number of decisions are focusing on big 10x ideas, innovation, 2 years, 3 years from now, what does the business want to do and what kind of innovative projects are we working on? That would be that section of discovering new ways to reach the consumer. But the rest of the time is essentially spent on the business as usual processes, optimizing bids, keyword analysis, ad text creation, ad text testing, landing page testing, etc. But what we want to do is actually use automation to take a portion of this daily business activities and automate it to give you more time to focus on the things that actually matter a lot more. And actually, systems like automation systems can do this much more efficiently and effectively than a human can, right? Can you optimize 800 million things in one go, in one day? That'll probably take you about 10 years. The system can do it immediately for every single millisecond. So in terms of what we can actually do, there are two approaches to automation. Again, this is Google-centric. You do have other third parties like Marin and Kenshu, but today we're just going to talk about the Google solution in terms of Adwords solution, but also the DoubleClick solution and how those two compare, and potentially how you should look at these and make decisions on whether do you want to use DoubleClick or do you want to use flexible bid strategies, etc. So let's look at the AdWords solutions. So the AdWords solution is pretty much real-time bidding algorithms, right? If you think about how third parties work, they will update the system maybe once a day, etc. But real-time bidding makes that decision for every single query. It adapts your bids and makes a decision for those. So how does it work? A user, one of your target audiences, enters a search query that matches one of your keywords. Right? The system immediately, within a millisecond, uses a broad set of signals to predict a specific conversion value for this auction. So it looks at your historic conversion data and says, is this user likely to convert because they're from London on an iOS browser and it's 5 o'clock? And it'll actually make that bid decision. What happens then is that for each and every one of these auctions, the flexible bidding strategies, the flexible bidding strategies will individually change every single bid for the keywords for every single query, right? And what happens then is that it typically outperforms any manual optimization that you can potentially make. And that is pretty much the AdWords real-time bidding suite, now called flexible bid strategies. Now, last year, you probably only had Conversion Optimizer and Enhanced CPC. That's still there, but the flexible bidding strategy is the future of the AdWords automation in terms of bid strategies, right? I'll go through them individually in terms of what bid strategies are applicable and how you can potentially use them together to increase the ROI of your campaigns. So what kind of signals do we use? Well, for search, we definitely use, is this a broad match keyword? Is this an exact match keywords? What type of keyword did you broad match against? All these things will be taken into consideration, right? If we also look at user attributes, as I mentioned, user location, it even looks at the operating system that someone's using. Does someone convert better on a Windows 8 than a Mac? Those are the types of signals that we have access to that third parties do not. Hence, we can make better decisions. Users' language settings. Do people with language settings on Spanish convert less than on English? If that's the case, the system will automatically optimize accordingly. Time of day as well is quite important. So flexible bid strategies, as I mentioned, is the new suite or new generation of AdWords real-time bidding solutions. It's a lot more flexible. A lot of these bid strategies can now be applied at ad group and keyword level rather than just campaign level, which it was traditionally the case for Conversion Optimizer and Enhanced CPC. You have a lot more control because of that flexibility. You can actually decide to apply it to 2 keywords within an account, just the long tail campaigns in your account, just the generics, etc. And there's a better reporting. Once you apply a bid strategy to a certain set of keywords or ad groups or campaigns, you can actually get a report on that bid strategy to see, right, on the campaigns that I applied this bid strategy to, give me the data for the last 7 days, which means you can see the improvements that happen over time for any campaigns that you apply the bid strategy to. So what are the bid strategies that exist? So the first bid strategy is maximize clicks within a target spend, right? This is really, really useful if you have flighted campaigns, etc. If you're potentially less CPA focused and you have a budget that you need to spend for a new product launch, for example, and you need to get as much traffic as possible for this spend, this is the way to go. Maximum conversions within target CPA. So this is basically the updated version of Conversion Optimizer. You enter a target CPA that the system will try to achieve for the ad groups and campaigns that you apply them to. Enhanced CPC, exactly the same as before, however now applicable to much more granular levels. Target search page location is, who here remembers when you could try and target specific positions on page? So some of you veterans would probably remember those good old times. This is a similar approach to that, but it's much more generic in terms of, right, do I want to at least appear on the first page, or do I want to try and get the system to make me appear in the top slots? So when you say top of page, it could be, if there are 3 ad slots, it's any of the 3, which means that the click-through rate improvements are massive when you're in the top positions. do you want that strategy or not? And last but not least, the newest member of the family, so to speak, is target ROAS. So you can actually have a return on ad spend strategy. So let's say that you want a 300% return on ad spend. You enter that into the system, and the system will automatically optimize towards that ROAS target. So depending on who you work for, you might have different targets, KPIs. Now with flexible bid strategy, the bid strategy suite, you can now select the one most appropriate for you, or a combination of a few. Right, so let's get into this. So maximum clicks within a target spend. So what it does is it automatically sets the bid to get you the most clicks within a target spend amount that you choose. Now this can be applied at very granular levels, but why would you want to use this? Well, you want to drive as much traffic as possible, right? Given a spend. If you have X amount to spend, let's say, I don't know, £1,000 to spend on a launch. I know that doesn't sound much, but you're overbidding and you're losing a lot of impression share loss to budget. Is that the most efficient way of spending that money? Probably not. In that case, you want to use maximum clicks for a given spend. Who should use it? Obviously, budget constrained campaigns. And what it does, what you can then do is also apply it to upper funnel head terms. So let's say you're doing lots of attribution work and you know that the generics drive a lot of assists, and you want to maximize the number of clicks that you get from the generics, but you don't want to overspend. What you do is then give generics a specific amount to spend, and you say, give me the maximum amount of clicks for the spend for generics. And that's what you can actually do. So this can be applied at campaign, ad group, or keyword level. So even within a campaign, let's say, I'm using Office Space because I have a bit of experience there. Let's say for the generics for Office Space, within that ad group, I have 10 keywords, but I want to limit spend of those 2 keywords within those 10 to a certain amount. You can even do that. You can say, right, I have £1,000 to spend on this ad group, but I want 200 of that to be spent on these 2 keywords, or I don't want these 2 keywords to spend more than £200. You can then apply that bid strategy down at keyword level within a campaign and ad group. Please let me know if you have any questions, by the way. Feel free to cut me off. The next one is similar to Conversion Optimizer. So you all know how Conversion Optimizer works, hopefully. It automatically sets a bid according to the target CPA that you have. So if you're trying to achieve a £20 CPA, you can then set up this bid strategy for a £20 CPA and apply that at different levels. So I'm not going to go through who and why, because you all know this, because it's been there in the past. But the great thing about this is it can be applied at campaign or ad group level, which means that let's say that you have a campaign with, I don't know, again, I'm going to use Office Space, sorry, because that's the one I know. Let's say that you have London offices, Manchester offices, Birmingham offices, right? But you have different CPA targets for these locations. You can actually have a higher CPA target for London because you have higher margins. Then what do? Do you want to apply one CPA target across all those locations, or do you want different ones? You probably want different ones, which then means that you can apply different CPA targets at ad group level within a given campaign. Does that make sense? Yeah, fantastic. Right, so target page location. This is really, really interesting and one of the newest members of the automation group. What it does, it automatically tries to get your ads either onto the top of the page or onto the first page of search results. So a lot of the times you might actually see in your account below first page bid estimate, right? If you don't want that to happen because you're falling off the first page every single time, but you have limited budget, what you want to do is maximize the amount that you're getting for that budget by making sure that every time an option happens, you at least try to get to the first page. That is an effective way to manage your bids and keywords to ensure that at least you're always appearing on the first page, and you're not forgetting all the long tail queries that you potentially don't have time to look at on a daily basis to make those appear on the first page. So we've covered that. So when would you use this? Obviously to drive traffic and conversions. It's also useful for brand awareness and reputation management, right? So if you have a new product launch and for certain keywords, you're like, right, for the next 2 months, we need to own this space because we launched a new product in a certain location. Then what you would do is apply a bid strategy for top of page during the product launch, etc. For those campaigns, ad groups, and even keywords, which is fantastic, right? So this is really useful because if you have a keyword that you know whatever happens, the margins are always going to be good and you need to be in the top positions, and this keyword happens to be in an ad group, you can then just say, right, for these 2 keywords in this ad group, which has 50 keywords, you can apply the top of page bid to those keywords, etc. One thing I forgot to mention, but is really useful, is that the most granular bid strategy will trump the higher level bid strategies, which means that you can actually have a CPA strategy at campaign level, but be like, ooh, the system's not pushing these 2 keywords, which are so important to me, high enough. I'm going to have to break them out to another campaign, you know, all the usual blah, blah, blah that we have to do to optimize a campaign. You now don't have to do that. You can then say, right, great, £20 CPA target for this ad group, but actually for these keywords, which I know are high margin and really important for the business, top of page bid estimate. And so it'll, for all the other keywords, it'll still go for the CPA, except for those 2 keywords. So target ROAS, which is the newest one. This is the target return on ad spend bid strategy. And what it does is it optimizes bids to maximize the revenue within the return on ad spend target that you have. So why would you want to do this? Well, obviously you have different conversion values, right? Let's say on a generic term, you don't know what the value is of that product. Again, I'm going to use maybe office space. If I type in office space and I'm in London, I'm not telling you anything in terms of that location I'm looking for. But if you can grab the conversion values dynamically or even statically, what ROAS can do is then optimize to return on ad spend based on the data that it captures, right? So let's say that I go through a generic term, even if it's virtualization, let's say, and I enter the lead and it says, thank you very much, this is the quote, £2,000. Then I can capture that £2,000 data, stick it into the system, and I'll optimize accordingly, right? And I'll start using the different signals that I covered at the very beginning, such as location, time, browser. And whenever someone, let's say Mac users tend to have higher, go for higher basket values, what it'll do is automatically for Macs upweight to get the ROAS target that you've entered into the system. So what do you actually need? You actually need the value of the conversion shared through. So when you set up conversion tracking, you have an option to enter either a static value. So you can tell Google for every conversion that happens, apply a $5 value or $20 value, etc. Or you can actually tweak the code slightly to be able to capture the values off the thank you page. Because sometimes, you know, when you enter a lead, it says, thank you very much for the lead. There's certain numbers, revenue numbers, or, you know, the cost numbers or the quote numbers that you can then capture and push back into AdWords for AdWords to make better decisions during the real-time bidding auction. So how does it work? I just took you through this. It uses historical conversion data, predicts the conversion value based on the signals that I've mentioned, and adjusts the bids in real time based on those predictions. Now, Enhanced CPC, how many of you have used Enhanced CPC in the past? Okay, quite a few of you, that's good. So what does Enhanced CPC do? Well, it automatically adjusts your manual bid up or down to a certain extent when it thinks that the chances of a conversion happening are higher or lower. So it uses the same technology behind target CPA flexible bid strategies, but it's a safer option if you're a bit worried about how crazy AdWords might get, etc. It's a safe option because it can only increase your bid to a maximum of 30%, but it doesn't have a lower limit. So it might look if it really believes that this user won't convert on your website. So again, it's to retain the control of your core bids. This is really important, especially for you using third-party bidding strategies or third-party bidding platforms. This is compatible with third-party bids, which is fantastic because, again, don't forget, third-party bidding software don't have access to the same type of user signals that Google does. So if you apply the intelligence of the third-party bidding software plus all these signals that they don't have access to, you can actually boost the performance quite significantly, right? And again, the advantage of that is you can apply that to specific ad groups as well. And actually what we've seen, and here's just a brief diagram of how they work together, you can actually get a lot of efficiency gains there. So on average, when people do use third parties with enhanced CPCs, we see a 3% decline in CPA and a 6% increase in conversions, right? Just by using these signals that we have access to. The other thing that I didn't mention, but which is useful, is search partners. Search partners obviously expands the reach of your search campaigns. Third-party bidding tools do not understand the behaviors on these search partners, but flexible bid strategies use that as a signal as well, which means that if you have a CPA target and search partners don't perform as well or perform much better based on your CPA targets, you can't really control it, right? Because you can't actually apply a specific bid for search partners. Flexible bid strategies will adapt the bids automatically on your search partners to hit your CPA targets. So how do you set this up? So this is just the demo account that I use just for the purpose of this training. When you go into AdWords, you'll have a link here that says shared library. Once you click on shared library, you'll actually see a couple of things like ads, audiences, budgets. This is basically a library of things that you can share across campaigns, ad groups, etc. What you want to do is click on bid strategies. Once you click through, you can actually develop lots of different bid strategies based on the different your product portfolio, etc., your different KPIs for different products, right? So here, you click down on the bid strategy, you have enhanced CPC targets, search page location target, CPA, maximize clicks. ROAS doesn't show up here because I don't have conversion tracking in this demo account, which means it's not picking up any values, which it understands. And what you then do is you get a long list of a library, basically, of all the bid strategies that you set up. And once you set them up, you just go back to the campaigns and you just select the box and say, yeah, apply this bid strategy to this campaign or this ad group or this keyword. So it's quite useful in a way to automate your search campaigns. Any questions on this? Yes.
Ad scheduling. Notice you quantify certain good strategies when you're scheduling ads.
Yeah.
Where we're not allowing you to apply certain good strategies because the campaign is scheduled from 6 to 5, and then there's another campaign that's running from 5 to 10.
Yeah.
So that's something that we updated, or is it just something?
Which bid strategy were you trying to apply to it?
The maximize clicks.
Okay.
That one, and I tried that maximize clicks and the position one as well.
Right, okay, so that's probably an update that the product team have to look into, but you do raise a really, really good point, right? If you actually have these changes, the setup made, the whole point of flexible bid strategy is, again, to take away the limitations, because at the moment you might have ad scheduling in place because people don't convert after a certain hour. But flexible bid strategy is supposed to solve that for you so that you don't have to go in and create really customized ad scheduling, because the system will understand that after 6 o'clock no one converts, which means it will automatically decrease your bids for those times. But I completely agree with the fact that if you do have a standard just 9 to 6 and you want to maximize the spend between that, then yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
At a certain time to stop and another ad to run.
Yeah, that's a good point. But you should use automated rules for that.
Yeah.
There we go. Automation. Simplify your life. Fantastic. But that's good, great feedback. No, keep those feedback coming because that's useful. If you're having issues with it, you're probably not the only one. So thank you. Right. So scenario A. All right, as a business, you want to ensure full visibility on dedicated hosting, let's say, right? It works, and strategically as a business, you have agreed with the marketing director, etc., that you're like, dedicated hosting is possibly our most profitable keyword. We have to own it every single time. What you then do is potentially implement a top of page bid strategy with an upper CPC limit, right? So although these flexible bid strategies allow you to take certain actions, you don't lose the control. You can still say, yes, apply this bid strategy, please, for top of page, but do not go over £10. So you won't lose that control. You'll still retain that level of control with these flexible bid strategies. You then say, okay, fine, but I don't have enough budget. What do I do? Because if suddenly demand fluctuates and tomorrow there's 300% more demand in terms of people typing in this query, I don't have enough budget. What do I do? You can then tell it, actually, if my campaigns are capped by budget, don't increase my bids, because obviously if you increase your bids when you're budget capped, you're just being less efficient, right? because you're paying more for a click, etc. You can get more clicks. So you can actually put in these little controls, which allow you to be a lot more efficient with the money that you're spending. And let's say that, okay, fine. Other than dedicated hosting, let's say for virtualization and all the long tail keywords that you potentially don't even have time to look at on a regular basis because you have 90,000 keywords, you want to achieve a flat rate of, let's say, £50 cost per lead. You then just create a bid strategy for a target CPA of £50 and you just apply that to all the campaigns and ad groups that you want. Now you have an automated system that says, right, for these keywords that I need to own as a business, it's automatically going to try and achieve the top positions rather than you going in the morning, logging in and say, yesterday, oh, I dropped position 4, right, I need to increase that. And then the next day coming in and say, oh, I'm overbidding for this, I need to drop it. It'll just do it for you, right? Which means that you can actually focus on the stuff that matters and the big impact stuff. Scenario B, right? We used this example already quite a bit. Office space in London is worth more than office space in Manchester. If you can actually gather the amount in the quote, potentially from the thank you page, using dynamic values with conversion tracking, you can then implement a conversion tracking with a ROAS-based bid strategy, right? Let's say 300%, 400%, whatever it is. Then the system will automatically bid up for the higher value keywords, even for generics, even if you don't know they're looking for London stuff. If you can actually pick up certain signals like their location on generics, plus what they actually get a quote for, you can then optimize accordingly. Excuse me. And basically, if it's difficult to capture that value on your thank you page, just because of the way the site is structured, you're not pulling in those values, or it's a lead without a quote, so you're just trying to capture email addresses. What you can then do is obviously use different CPA targets for different location. For example, £120 for London, 100 for Manchester, or £80 for long tail locations that you don't really know about, somewhere in Wales. You're like, I don't have time to optimize that, but I know £80 is good. You just apply that there. And so you have different ways of using these in conjunction with each other. So that's the end of the flexible bid strategies bit. Are there any questions, comments, discussion points? Yes?
You were saying that you have direct search by page location. Is it possible to say exactly where we want to be?
No. So sorry, the question was, can you select exactly where you want to be in terms of page location? As in, I'm guessing the question is position-wise, like position 5, 6, 7, 8. No, you can't, because that becomes too complicated with all the fluctuations and the bids and all that. Every time an auction happens, that it'll look for the top of page positions and what you need to get there, but also see what your first page bid estimates are to get you on the first page. You only have those two options. However, you can, again, I encourage you to play around with these bid strategies because you have a lot of control. You can actually say, bid for the top of page, please, but decrease that bid by 10%. Or if you want to make sure you're in the top position, you say, right, please bid for top of page plus 30%. So you have these percentages that you can play with. So if you're trying to target maybe position 6 or 5, you might say, right, please apply a bid strategy to appear on the first page plus 20%. And that will probably, off the top of my head, don't quote me on this, will probably get you on maybe position 6, 7.
Can I see, for example, what is the position 4 in the left column? And so I see just a little on top of it.
So you can't bid for specific positions. No, you'll have to use the percentages. You will get a report. So let's say that you apply this bid strategy, first page bid plus 20%. You create that in the library, shared library as a bid strategy. You apply that to a couple of keywords. You can then get a report that say, right, what position am I getting for these keywords on average since I've implemented this bid strategy? And if you think that it's not enough, then you can adapt that bid strategy and increase the percentages and see whether that gets you in the position that you want. So there is a bit of testing and learning as well. Yes?
Does that work by device?
It does work by device. It's one of the signals that it uses is also device.
Yeah, but can I set the strategy by device?
No, you cannot at this point in time. Yeah, that is a common request though, and that is feedback that's been sent back to product. Yeah. Yes.
Page strategy. You're bidding a page, but you're setting the limit on the bid. How is that actually different to a single bid?
So that's a very good question. If you want to actually increase, again, the recommendation, and you'll see not recommended, is to set that bid. But it's again so that people don't feel scared that it's just going to go mental. It's so that hopefully it's higher than the actual bid that you're paying at the moment. If you want to be in the top, you say, right, I want to be in the top whenever I can, but maximum £10, right? But if you're currently paying £10 and you're in position 5, and you select that, it's not going to do anything. It's just saying it's trying, but it's not going to do anything. So ideally, in the ideal scenario, is that you know exactly which keywords or campaigns you want in the top positions and not put a max bid limit. Yeah.
And then what happens if
It's exactly with manual, right? Manual bidding. If you increase it, your bids, and the comparator increases the bids, then what happens? It looks at ad rank, quality score, and stuff like that. And that's how the auction works. It's who's willing to actually invest a lot more for those positions. So it'll be exactly the same as if you did the same thing manually. You increase your bids, your comparator increases your bids.
so if you haven't,
You look at-
as you said, you absolutely want to top position.
Yeah.
You haven't put it into
Yeah. But then you need to monitor, right? You need to look at the reports, see whether it's still profitable for you or not. Again, it depends on what the strategy is, and again, it depends on the budget. What I would recommend is start with potentially, if your current bid is £10, let's say, just hypothetically, just put in a £20 bid limit in terms of the increase, and tell Google to basically tell the flexible bid strategy to get to the top of the page within those limits. So if it keeps going up, they'll still cap at 20. But if it's 15, then it'll bid 15 to get to that top of the page. Yeah. So definitely have a play around with it and see what the reports look like and stuff like that. It could definitely be useful. Yeah. Any other questions? Comments? Yes. It'll always have a learning aspect, and any bid solution that you implement will need that learning time, basically. But if you already have lots of conversions in the account, it could immediately take action because it has all those signals in the back end, right? If you've been manually bidding for the last 12 months, and it knows that in certain locations conversion rates are higher on this browser, when you apply the flexible bid strategy, boom, it already has that, and so can actually take decisions quicker. If it's a new account, then obviously you need time for it to bed in, definitely. But I would definitely recommend maybe 2 to 3 weeks minimum as a testing framework to allow it to take impact without too much interruption. You know, when you set something up and you're interrupting it all the time, then it just gets confused. Any other questions? No? Yes, Ella. So it hasn't replaced it. You can still get the conversion optimizer. And I think it's just a change in wording, pretty much, because what we're trying to do is we're trying to achieve a CPA, which is the target, right? If you say max CPA, the system is going to be too scared to do anything and will actually be quite conservative. But if you just say target CPA over a long term, it should try and achieve probably, I can't say, I'm just speculating at this point, but you know, plus or minus 5% of that target, etc. It's just the wording of it. It's a target CPA. If you max it, then yeah. I don't know if that answers your question very well, but any other questions? Right, okay, so moving on to DoubleClick search. So DoubleClick search is basically a bidding platform that manages all your search campaigns in one place, right? So a lot of you might be managing, you know, Google, Bing, Yahoo campaigns, etc. And you have to log into each of those different platforms to actually make decisions using, you know, Adwords editor versus Bing solution and Yahoo solution, etc. But what this does is it unifies all those campaigns and search campaigns from the different networks into one platform, which ultimately looks like the Google interface, which means if you're comfortable using AdWords, then you'll feel comfortable using DoubleClick search. Now, how does it work? Well, it uses fresh data, and similar to flexible bid strategies, it has a flexible bid management system. It uses signals like, trends, seasonality, and critical dates. When we say critical dates, it's just random spikes in terms of, let's say the weather suddenly gets cold and you get a massive spike in umbrellas or coats and stuff like that. It'll pick up those trends immediately and start bidding accordingly. So how does it actually work? Well, it's quite simple, right? A, you express the goal that you want, similar to flexible bid strategies. It then optimizes across the portfolio of keywords, and you can then categorize keywords into portfolios. So you might have the London office portfolio, which means that what flexible bid strategies will try to do is for each keyword, try to achieve that CPA. But what DoubleClick can do is actually look at it as a portfolio-wide optimization and say, right, well, on this keyword, if the CPA goes up to £70 rather than 50, we can get so many more conversions, but we can actually get the other keywords to achieve lower CPAs, which means if you look at it as a portfolio level, it'll still achieve that CPA target that you want. And in terms of bidding, this is unique to DoubleClick search. It actually makes bid decisions daily, up to 4 times. So a lot of the other bid management systems will actually optimize maybe once a day, etc. DoubleClick search uses real-time conversions. So if you go into the DoubleClick interface, the DoubleClick search interface, you can actually see your conversion numbers just ticking up, whenever that happens, at least within a couple of seconds. AdWords conversions is updated once every 24 hours. So although we're using real-time bidding, the recency of the conversion data in AdWords is actually past 24 hours. DS or DoubleClick search is pretty much in the last couple of seconds, right? And recency can actually benefit a business massively in terms of making decisions much faster at that point in time. And so these bid changes can happen up to 4x daily. So how does this actually work? So again, we talked about entering your goals. As you can see here, you have lots of different types of goals that you can set up, such as get as many actions or transactions or get as much revenue as possible. Actually, I want to keep keywords to answer your question in the back. In terms of positioning, DS3 can actually do that, or DoubleClick search can actually do that, try to achieve certain positions using a learning algorithm, and it could also maximize the number of clicks you get for a given spend. In terms of signals that it can actually use, obviously it can only use historic conversion data based on keywords. It cannot access browser settings, language settings that flexible bid strategies can, but again, you can use enhanced CPC to boost what DoubleClick search does. So it understands seasonality, looking at historic data to see, well, in winter, the queries are going to go up, your conversion rates go up, it's going to start making those decisions. Critical dates, it's going to understand these short-term trends as well and make decisions based on, if in the last 3 days, conversions have suddenly spiked for certain keywords, it'll understand that trend and make decisions accordingly. Same thing with offline events. For example, snowstorms, etc. Within that day, again, conversion recency, really, really important here for DoubleClick search. It'll understand if there's a sudden spike within the day in terms of conversions and make that decision within the day based on that day's data as well. It looks at a combination of days data, last 7 days, last 30 days, etc., and seasonality to make the most smart decision for your bid management. And as you can see, it looks quite similar to AdWords. It's not a completely new interface that you need to learn. A lot of the columns, a lot of the tabs look almost exactly like AdWords, so you might confuse the two if you're in both at the same time. But you do have the same types of segmentation across devices, etc. So you should feel relatively comfortable using DoubleClick search if you choose to do so in the future. The other really cool feature about DoubleClick search is you can actually compute data directly in the interface without having to export and just mess around with Excel, right? If you want to add new columns, you just add a column name, the lookup variable, you just enter whatever calculation you want to do. If you want to divide a column by another column, you can actually do that immediately, and it'll actually be in your interface, right? So if there's offline data that you want to incorporate in terms of operational costs, that's not pulled into into DoubleClick search, you can then incorporate that data to come up with, right, well, post revenue, if I subtract my operational cost, what do I get? You can then use those columns to optimize your campaigns. Search attribution. Attribution is obviously a big topic, and The DoubleClick search can also give you a lot of these extra columns to understand, the assisted clicks that happen for specific keywords, etc., right in the middle of the interface, which is again useful when you're making bid decisions. If you want to use it manually, I wouldn't recommend manual bidding. If you're paying for software, if you're paying for a bid management platform, you want to use the tools that are available in it. So yeah, attribution is another really strong aspect of the user interface. So you can see the assist ones, the assist to conversion ratios, and you can also add labels. For example, if you have generic keywords, you can label them, and then you can pull reports based on the labels that you apply to specific keywords, which again gives you the flexibility to group specific keywords with labels for, for reporting or presentations that you have to do internally to senior managers. If you want to group, product portfolios together, you can actually label those specifically as well. It's also fully integrated with Google Analytics, which is fantastic. You can get all your stats, or most of the stats, from Google Analytics automatically in DoubleClick search, which is fantastic. The integration in the backend has already happened. You don't need to mess around with new tags, etc. You just need to ask your DoubleClick account manager to say, right, let's link it up, and you can actually integrate the data at keyword level, which is, again, very, very useful. And it's also fully integrated with various call tracking providers, right? As B2B businesses, calls are probably really, really important for you. I don't know, how many people here use call tracking providers, like third parties? So quite a few of you. So DoubleClick search can now integrate, or already as standard, integrated with the following providers in terms of call tracking, which means that when people call and make a sale, etc., that data is automatically pulled into DoubleClick search, right? If the solution that you're using or thinking of using is not on this list, you have the API calls, right? As long as they're using APIs, you connect the two, you can pull in that data and make bid decisions based on the call information as well, especially for B2B, extremely important. And obviously bid, here's just a generic benchmark, but just to show the power that, bid management has. And again, I was talking to the DoubleClick search guys, and the real power comes from the recency, how recent the data is and how quickly you can make decisions on it. And as you can see, most of 88% of users actually saw significant improvement in performance of bid strategies using DoubleClick for search. And a lot of the businesses also doubled conversions as well, at half the CPA. But what's even better about using DoubleClick search is the fact that it integrates with the whole stack. We call this the DoubleClick stack, right? Who here have email campaigns, display campaigns, etc.? Yeah, quite a few of you. Managed in AdWords or third parties? Yeah. So a lot of advertisers now have all these new marketing channels, email, display, social, video, etc. But they're tracking it in different ways. They're using one tool to track one thing, another tool to track something else. But actually, by using the DoubleClick stack, so to speak, you're using one cookie to track people across all these channels, which means you get one view of the consumer. You're not duplicating. You're actually understanding, and the system dedupes what happens on email, via search, via display, via video, etc. So that, when you go into meetings and you're like, right, this is the amount of revenue we had for display, search. Oh, you add the two, that's more than the revenue we made this month. What's going on? DoubleClick search or the DoubleClick stack will actually solve that problem because they'll deduplicate the information at a user level across these channels. Now, one good example of how this works is the immediate fresh data. Again, I keep saying this, but the freshness of data that is shared between the display and search campaigns. If you have a search campaign or a display campaign, the system can actually make decisions almost immediately after that to improve either the display campaigns that you're managing through DoubleClick or the search campaigns through DoubleClick search. And here's just one example for Vivaki, which is an agency, and they looked at some examples from some of their finance clients, and they actually saw a 32% increase in conversions and 24% in CPAs just by making sure that the signals from display and search are communicating as fast as possible, and they're making those decisions 4 times a day or almost immediately. So you could get a lot of efficiency gains by making sure that your channels are communicating and that you're getting a single view of the consumer and you're adapting as fast as possible against those signals. there any questions so far? No? Yes, I have a question.
How it integrates with both search, Google, Adwords, and
So DoubleClick is just a platform. It uses the question, yes. So the question is, how does AdWords integrate with DoubleClick search? So it uses the API, basically. The DoubleClick is just a platform that pulls in information from AdWords, pulls in information from Yahoo, pulls in information from Bing, and consolidates that into one place using their own cookie, which means that it understands user behavior, etc., which is why it's so powerful when you combine it with the display activities that you run, the email activities that you run, because it uses that one tag. It's supported by Google. Obviously, it's a Google product, and there's lots of engineering support on it, which is why about, I would say 6 years ago, maybe the reputation wasn't so good, but they've invested a lot of time and engineering into making it one of the best providers out there. Excuse me. Yes.
Is there a cost associated with the package? Is there a cost?
Is there
Cost.
a cost?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. I should probably mention that. Good point. Is there a cost associated to DoubleClick search? Yes, there is a cost. I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's comparable to the other third-party solutions that exist. Flexible bid strategies is free. DoubleClick, obviously, you get all the customer support, you get technical account managers to help with integration, etc. as well. So yeah. Right, so let's compare the two. So if we take a look at flexible bid strategies, it's focusing on Google search and partner networks, and it's real-time bidding against those. It uses signals third parties cannot, but can work with other third parties if you decide to implement the enhanced CPCs. It has basic controlling and reporting. It has improved from Conversion Optimizer and enhanced CPC. You can now pull reports to see how the flexible bid strategy has performed for a given time frame for the keywords, campaigns, and ad groups that you've applied them to. But it's still a fragmented view of the consumer. This is just an AdWords solution, which means that it doesn't link that information back to your display campaigns, to your video campaigns, to your email campaigns, etc. It optimizes only off of AdWords metrics, right? So at this point in time, if you have phone calls as conversions, for example, it doesn't optimize off of that information. It just uses what's in the conversion column in there. DoubleClick search, obviously it's cross-platform, across Google, Bing, Yahoo. It updates conversions 4 times a day. So it's pretty much real-time conversions in terms of the floodlight tag sending conversion data back, but it doesn't use browser data, language data, etc. Again, it can use enhanced CPC to boost the performance. Much tighter controls and reporting across all digital channels, right? When DoubleClick search makes a decision, all of you know account history in AdWords. You basically have the same thing for all the bid strategies that it's done and why it's done it. You can understand, it gives you a report in DoubleClick search where you see, right, so the bid strategy decided to up my bids by 30% yesterday. Why did it do that? It tells you the why. Whereas the flexible bid strategy will just optimize towards the KPIs that you've entered, but you can't get that in the account history. You don't know exactly what the exact bid changes it made and all of that. So you have a lot more insight and transparency with DoubleClick search than with flexible bid strategies. And it also integrates with phone tracking providers compared to flexible bid strategies, which is only off of AdWords metrics. Any questions? No? Great. So yes.
So this is quite broad because again, it's not specific to anything. But when you use this, you're studying kind of the detail that there are some A/B tests versus flexible strategies versus local bidding strategy, or vice versa for the other third activities. Obviously, it's dependent on how the vertical specific stuff.
Yeah.
Like looking at research, it doesn't seem that there's anything like that built in. I suppose it's what we in Google's best interest is what Google products, so to speak.
Yeah. So I wouldn't consider them the same product. So I don't think we should put them head to head because, right, if you guys, and let's be honest about this, right? Would you spend a large amount on, a DoubleClick platform or a third-party platform if you're spending 90% of your budget on search, Google search? You don't need that, right? Flexible bid strategy is the way to go if you're spending most of your budget on Google search. However, if you have a really big integrated marketing strategy, which includes lots of email, lots of display, lots of video, then that is when DoubleClick search is worth its value in terms of making it more efficient, making the channels talk to each other, share the signals, etc. To be honest, if I was a small business and I'm just using search on Google and 90% of my budget is spent there, would I invest in DoubleClick search? Probably not. I'd probably go with flexible bid strategies first. And then once the business grows, etc., and it becomes a lot more complicated, I need to understand how the users go from one channel to another, then that's when the DoubleClick stack is actually really useful. Does that make sense? When to use it, when not to? Yes.
Does it work with other APIs that you've not put there, like Facebook or LinkedIn, other third-party?
I would probably have to ask Rafa if that's the case. Yeah? Okay, there we go.
You do the click tracking, as long as you've got the pixel tracking, LinkedIn.
Thank you for the answer. There we go. So it does work with the social media. So there we go. Are there any other questions? No? On that? Brilliant. So just a couple more slides to close this off. So basically what we're trying to do is really use automation, right? Automation is so important. Like, just choose one or the other, but you have to automate to some extent to be able to actually focus more time on the things that matter, innovative projects, things like, you know, looking at how can you improve site conversions? Can you save 30% of your weekly time spent on bidding, or even make the time that you don't have more efficient if you don't have to spend any time on bidding? To be able to actually go for the big impact decisions and spend your time on the things that actually matter in the long run, to actually have the biggest incrementality in terms of performance. But automation doesn't mean that you're not in the driver's seat, right? A lot of people are afraid of automation because it takes control away. But what these things do is still let you drive the car, so to speak, but it's just a lot more efficient, right? You still need good data for automation to work. If the data that you input is rubbish, you're just gonna get rubbish out, right? You still need to make sure that the keywords you input in there, the match types, are correct. You still need good ad text. You still need good landing pages. You still need to understand consumer journeys and such as cross-device conversion tracking and just the general attribution. You also need to focus on the overarching strategy and drive the tool. You're driving the tool. You're telling it what to do. You're telling it what the KPIs are. You're building the strategy, and actually spending more time on the strategy and understanding the strategic importance of how the channel works will actually enable you to drive much higher incrementality in the business rather than focusing on the little manual bids that you don't have time to spend on. Obviously, focusing on improvements in the ad text landing page will allow the automation to amplify these improvements at scale. What we tend to see when you have manual bidding is you make an improvement on the website, your conversion rates go up, and then you spend 3 weeks upping your bids to make sure that you get more of the conversions because your conversion rates are higher. What it does is that every improvement that you make from the website perspective, the system will pick it up and boom, done. Scalable solutions to improvements that you make elsewhere, right? That makes sense. It just amplifies it much, much faster. That's pretty much it. Sorry, I'm losing my voice now, but if anyone has any questions, please let me know. Automation. Who uses automation at the moment? Kind of. So not many of you. Who's thinking of automating a lot of this stuff in the future? Yeah? It'll definitely save you time and a lot of headaches. Fantastic.
Thank you very much, Herb. Great.